Okay, so just starting to think about this gear linkage side of it then, and remember from the last video, if you watched it, I remembered I wanted to try and do it so I didn't run the link rod on the outside. I'm not going to worry about that in a minute. I'm just going to make the foot peg and the lever exactly the same as the other side at the moment, and then have a think about the linkage once I've got the lever made. I've been thinking about it. I've been looking at thinking about different ways that it might work. The foot peg, the other side foot peg, I still love it. It kind of had the effect that I wanted almost, but not quite. One of my friends came around to see it, and his exact words were, well, I won't say it you know, on YouTube, just in case any children end up watching this video, but it was basically, F off Pete, that's too effing big for the bike. Which is kind of what I wanted, but maybe not quite as harsh as it was said. He did come round, and after he sort of studied it for a little while and thought about it for a little while, he sort of half came round to my way of thinking. But we'll see. We'll do the other side and have a look. So in the first instance, I've just cut down a bit of that block. I'll turn this down, and I'm just going to make the lever and the foot peg exactly the same. So I won't bore you with it because it will be the same process. So, made the foot peg and the lever the same as the other side. And so we've got both of them now, which is great. This is sitting, or where it's comfortable for me to sit, is where that is. And there is enough room when you're sat on it to put your foot round underneath where the exhaust is, which is great. So now we just got to figure out the linkage. So I'll have to put the swinging arm back on now. Okay, so this gear lever business then, I just had to drop the gearbox out because obviously there's movement in the arm, but you need it to select the gears so you can get the full travel on this, and the only way you can do it is by turning the shaft and moving this at the same time. And it happens to have around about 30mm worth of travel, which is from there to there. Now I was going to make this, but I think I'm probably overthinking this a little bit too much. The worry here is, obviously the gear lever is that long, which is that long. So if the linkage was the same size, it would be far too much trouble in the gear, far too much travel in the gear lever. So the drop arm off of it is got to be, you know, quite long. So I'm just gonna just do it quickly, just so I get the right amount of travel, get the right ratios between the size of this and the size of that. But yeah, you know what, I think I'm probably overthinking this a bit too much. I think I'm just going to make it and see what happens. Oh well, good morning. It's Boxing Day today, so day of rest. Day of puzzling over stuff today, I think. And the puzzle is this gear lever then. Now I want the rod to go inside the frame if possible. Problems here are gear lever. Gear lever has 30mm worth of travel from one point to the other extreme. So the rods go backwards and forwards by 30mm. Issue here then is this bar here. Is this bar there. This line here is the swinging arm. Okay, that's at its maximum travel downwards, so you'd have to be airborne to actually get it in that position, but we'll work off of that position anyway. This is my gear lever, and that's how long it is. So I don't want the gear lever to have a massive amount of travel. If I have 30mm, if I had the same link size, 30mm travel there would equate to quite a lot of travel in the gear lever itself. So I need a longer drop arm off the gear lever, so this travels less distance. Makes sense so far. Problem is, that's where the gear lever naturally sits, something like that. That arm will probably be down here. Problem is then, is my link rod, if I put it through the frame, will either have to have a bend in it, which isn't ideal on a push-pull rod, is it really? Or we could actually try and figure out a linkage assembly, because the other thing with this, if I just do a drop arm straight off here to that, it will reverse the gears. So it'll be one up, the rest down, which isn't an issue because all of my old race bikes and that used to be like that anyway, so I don't mind doing that. But I'm wondering whether or not I could put a second link rod here with a pivot, again similar to what we did on the brake side, and make it work. Problem is this gap. This gap and 30mm worth of travel is the hard bit. So that's what we're looking at the moment. Okay, so after some thinking, I think this will work. Okay, so now this is really hard because it's cardboard, it bends everywhere. But coming across to a pivot underneath there, you can't see at the moment, this will have to go in front of this arm. I can't figure out a way of doing it behind, which isn't an issue, I don't think. I think the effect will be the same because my bar will just come straight back to here. So in a sense, it's still be, everything will still be on that side of the outer tube of the frame. Okay, so our little pivot's going to have to swing around the front of the frame. I'll take this off. Get that out of the way then for a minute. Okay, so it'll work like so. And there is if I get it just right, there's enough movement to get my 30mm travel without snagging that bar and without snagging the swinging arm either. And like I say, the swinging arm, where is 30mm at the minute is from there to there. So I could do that. This then would be my drop rod, which will come up to the underside of the pedal here, and I've already lost some travel here because that distance there is greater than that, and I can do exactly the same here as well. So I can figure this out with however much drop I want off of this, so I can figure, I can have exactly how much ever movement in the pedal that I want. I did all of this on the brake side as well. Sadly, luckily for you, you missed it because I just couldn't fit it all into the video on that one. Okay, so link rod here, then going between there and there like so, and then the gears will be the same way around as they are. The only thing being then, so if I put my pivot here, the other thing about doing it this way is, well, there's a bit of symmetry to both sides. It won't be in the same place. The other one, it'll be further forward, but it will look similar. The only problem being then is my drop rod coming down will be quite low in relation to the exhaust, but it will be further in the bike than the exhaust is. You know what? I think it will work. Should we have a go? Let's have a go at building this. Okay, so just tack the pivot to the frame, and so the first rod I've got to make is the, Damn smoking. First link rod I've got to make is the one that comes up and round underneath. Now this pivot in relation to the bar is actually a bit further round than the initial design, which is good for me. It means it should be easier to do. Bear with me. I'm just going to make it out a bit form of plan. I'm going to make it out of cardboard first, just to make sure I get the right shape, so it doesn't snag on anything. And then I'll make it out of metal and just weld it on to my pivot at the bottom. Okay, so just making up the first link rod, you can see I sort of chamfered away the edge there, chamfered away the edge there, so I can fill this up with weld and then grind it back down again, because I need this to be perfectly flat, this one. Okay. Okay, so we've got all of our first load of bits made up for our first pivot arm. This is a pivot arm. Everything needs a nice bit of cleaning up afterwards and sorting out 100%. Just making sure it all works in the first place. Okay, so let me just fit it on the bike and I'll show you what it does. Okay, so here is our first of our link rods, which is fantastic. I need a little bit of bar now to go between these two. I've got some 6mm bar down here somewhere. I'll just cut it down to size and put a thread on each end of it, and that should do the job. Okay, so we have the first link rod on. Okay, so we're going to have it coming straight off of this. So no ball joint on there, one of these ends on there, and running back into there. Fantastic. So we started. Obviously I've put a thread on here so we can get this to the right length when we finally put it all together. We'll have to drop this back off of there for now though, because now what we've got to do is figure out under here we need a drop arm off of our, this is where the lower part of it is, and it's got to run along and drop down here. Okay, so again, same process. I'll just make it up, tack it on there, see if it works. Okay, so link rod on, and I've just made this little drop arm off the bottom. So now all I've got to do is figure out how much movement I want on my pedal in relation to movement over there, and put a drop arm off the bottom of here. Okay, so I'll just make another drop arm up, and job done with a bit of luck. So the gear lever is done, the linkage is done, and I think it's great. It's my favourite bit of the bike at the moment so far, I think. gorgeous. Gorgeous. I've really enjoyed making this little bit. So now I can't push too hard on it because the pivot is only tacked onto the frame, and if I'm worried I might move it, so I've got to wait until it gets welded on there properly, until it's all good. But you can see I managed to keep all of the linkage inside the frame, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep it nice and clear like the other side, so all you could see was the foot peg really. But the linkage is there, the linkage is there. It looks lovely. I've got, yeah, I've got the right amount of movement in the lever. I think I have anyway. It's a matter of trying it out properly at some point or other. So things to do, I've put a thread in the end because this is bolted. I haven't got the right bolt at the minute, so I've just got a bolt holding it in. So it will be bolted through as they were originally intended to be from that side. So I need an Allen key bolt for there. Then I need a little short Allen key bolt for here just to cap it off the same as the other side, so it looks like the other side when you see it. But that's it. That's it. Love it. Love it. I'm wondering whether I should have been making a steam train like my dad rather than a motorbike. Oh, looks great. Looks great. Looks great. So this is it so far. So far so good.